Brian, can you hear anything?
All right, we are live. All right, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I also want to thank Cheryl, who joins us online every meeting. So thank you for always being a faithful listener. It is 7:01, and I now call to order the 2124th regular City Council meeting. Very good. Please take roll call.
Mayor Hernandez,
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza,
Present.
Councilmember Peterson,
Present.
Councilmember Williams,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Present.
and Councilmember Boyle.
Present.
And Councilmember Jessup has asked to be excused. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? It's time for public comment. Sherry, did anyone submit a comment in advance?
I did not receive any comments.
Okay, so if there's anyone in attendance, in actual attendance, whether it's in our lobby or virtual, and would like to speak, please raise your hand now. If you are on the telephone, *9 will raise your hand. Yes, sir. Thank you. You can step right up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record. You hit the green, yeah.
Perfect. It's just auto. Well, hello. Good evening. Thank you. Brandon Shadle, address 1207 Southeast Trentwood Drive, College Place, Washington.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
All right, perfect. You may or may not be aware, but I wanted to bring to kind of light something that recently happened to me that I thought could be helpful for us to consider here at City Council, related to utility fee and late notices, essentially. So the new kind of water utility bill payment system that came onto place brought this a little bit to my attention. It was, I guess we switched to a new system. It wasn't very clear that we were also getting new account numbers. So myself, it typically uses like a bank payment system and they ask for your account number there. And so thought we were paying it, but noticed that we didn't receive a August bill, but got a bill at the end of August for September. And then that had a past due amount. So we're like, oh no, we need to pay this. But the due date was September 25. So we planned accordingly because it didn't alert us on there of immediacy is needed for the back payment by a certain date. But I found out that on September 11, there was a late fee notice payment mail sent. That took, I have the USPS preview mail thing. So that arrived, let me know on Saturday the 16th, it was coming, but I didn't get that in the mailbox until the 19th. And I'm guessing this is related to Walla Walla's gas leak and mail kind of getting crazy here in the past few weeks. But then I got a red tag notice delivered the 19th to the house. And there was 2 different dates. The letter let us know there was a cutoff date of like the 20th, and then the red tag notice says the 21st. And so a couple different dates, but those were confusing because the bill just didn't clarify that the past due amount should be paid, you know, within a few days. And so I was thinking that it would be helpful for not having maybe upset people in the lobby or calling the front desk. I'm sure they had to listen to a few of those people call. But to say on the second missed payment, have the notice go out for, hey, this is the letter, it's past due, you should make sure to pay this amount. And if they haven't paid, give it some timing from the letter say a week, it should get to us in a few days here. Let's say, let's give it a week and then let's issue the red tag warning after the second one, not like immediately after the first one, because it threw us all for a loop and a little bit crazy there. But the new payment system also not very clearly stating that there's a new account number was a little bit of a headache for some. I've talked to, neighbors and other people that get the water bill and they're like, yeah, that was kind of a headache and a challenge that we weren't, aware of. We knew the new payment system, but didn't know all the little details that need to be done. So a little bit of a leeway too if a new system comes out, because there'll be changes, little hiccups, but understand that, hey, maybe let's be able to forgive the red tag notice, because the front desk said they can waive a late fee, but they're not able to remove a red tag notice once that's issued. And so some type of, hey, if you've been a good citizen, been paying the bill, it's been current, but past year, you haven't had a waived red tag, let's go ahead and add that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that information. Yeah, thank you. And I do got to admit, I had to call because I couldn't figure out my account number either. All right, so thank you. Sherry, anybody else virtually?
We have one attendee.
Cheryl? Probably. Okay, so, but one attendee that wants to speak? No, okay, all right, so then we'll move on. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to the consent agenda, which consists of tonight's agenda, September 26, 2023, the council meeting minutes from September 12th, 2023, the resolution of support, state issued form for the State Recreation Conservation Office local park maintenance, and excusing the absence of Councilmember Jessup. Are there any items a council member would like removed from the agenda at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we got a first and a second. Anybody want to remove anything more from the agenda at all before we move on? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. Okay, we're going to move on quickly to presentations. There's two of them on our agenda tonight. First is a recognition for Yard of the Month recipients for September 2023, which is at 706 Southeast 12th Street. Mr. Rizzatello, are you going to share that with us?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Mayor. So Yard of the Month program, we typically do that during the summer and then also month of December. This most recent iteration of the award goes to the Amparo family over at 706 Southeast 12th Street. And you can see the photos there. So
Thank you for adding a picture of their
Yep.
yard.
thanks for catching that.
They look happy. They really look happy. So good. All right. Thank you, Mike. All right. Next is the 2024 preliminary budget revenues. And Mr. Carlton, you are up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll just bring up share my screen. All right, by state RCW, we're required to bring to council the preliminary plan for budget. Sorry about that. So, sorry, I'm just dealing with a pet. So we're required by RCW to provide to council our plan for revenues for the next budget cycle, which is 2024. Attached some of our preliminary assumptions. Sorry, my screen is just frozen on me. Oh. So here are our assumptions that we made for the 2024 revenue. We're expecting interest rates to same at a similar level to 2023. There is talk the feds are going to increase interest rates up to 7% with a slight lightening hopefully next year. We've budgeted for a number of commercial and residential projects as far as community development revenues go in the last few years. But finally, I think we think some of those projects are going to start next year. So we're anticipating more community development revenue. Our property tax increase we currently have in the budget as the maximum allowable of 1%. We'll have 100% of the ambulance utility go out to billing next year. Currently, we don't have the county property tax estimates for their increase for next year. That'll be available probably this week, if not in the first part of October. Currently, as far as the capital expenditures for next year, Mike will be presenting those at the next meeting, and we'll use those numbers there to develop what our capital expenditures and our grant revenues will be. And currently, they're not in the revenues. Also, interfund transfers are not included. And we have added in the transportation benefit district that Mike has brought to council before, but will bring you for in a future meeting for approval by council. But we did include the estimated amount of $350,000 into 2024. Now here's the summary of the major revenue sources, and you can see the trend across the top. From 2020 to 2022 actual, 2023 budget, and what we're anticipating for next year. Line by line, property taxes, as was stated in the last slide, we put in a 1% increase, and that's based off the 2023 budget number. Our sales tax, we're expecting an increase in our sales tax just due to new business that's occurring with Chipotle, Burger King, a full year of a few stores in the area. So we're expecting an increase there. Our B&O tax, we're showing a slight increase as a result of increased business. Business licenses and taxes, we're showing a slight increase, again, associated to potential new businesses. Now, here we show our non-bite business license and permits. You can see our building permit fees are expected to increase as that development starts to occur. The next line just is for a reference. In those prior years of 2021 and 22, we had the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act funds. State shared revenues. There's a number of lines in here that we get a model from MRSC. At the state level, it shows us what their anticipated state shared revenues are. And those numbers are directly taken from their recommendation. So a slight increase in the state shared revenue numbers. Public safety shows a slight bump, similar levels to what was in 2022, just anticipating wildfires that most likely will occur in 2024. Our planning and development fees are a little bit higher associated with that increase in building permit and development fees. Traffic penalties, a slight reduction there. We budgeted $40,000 in 2023. I don't have the current level where we're at now, but we're anticipating a similar level in 2024, and a slight increase in our miscellaneous revenues. The numbers in 2022 as a credit, there is losses due to investments included in that line item, and that's associated to that. That's with the bond rates going down considerably with those lower interest rates in that time frame. Our GMT estimate is trends, we're budgeting for 65,000. So overall, for the current expense, you can see we're anticipating an increase of just over $900,000 in 2024. Our road fund amount, that number is also given to us by MRSC, and we use that it's ironic that it's only $1 higher than 2023 budget, but we use those numbers. Our real estate excise tax accounts 305, and that should say 306. We're expecting the level of property sales to go up potentially with the new development. So we're budgeting in an extra $60,000 in 2024. Into our utilities, water revenues, we've taken this amount from the 2022 rate model that was presented to council in 2022, and it shows a slight increase in water revenues at just under $2.1 million. Our capital reserves amount, based on planning and development, we have had that significantly high in the 2023 budget, but as you can see in the prior years, that it's strictly related to our the money we're getting in based on development. So we're showing a slight decrease next year. Our water debt service, that is also based on our utility rate model, and it shows a slight increase. Overall, for the water funds, you can see we're anticipating $104,000 increase in revenues in 2024. Our wastewater reserves are next. That number is also taken from the 2022 rate model, a slight increase at $3.2 million. As well as the next two lines for the wastewater capital reserves and the debt service fund, that is driven from the rate service model. Overall, for our wastewater, we're showing an additional $156,000 anticipated for 2024. Our stormwater revenues are taken from our rate model as well, showing a slight increase to $33,000 to $663,000. And the ambulance utility, as was stated in the prior slide, is anticipated at the 100% of the full rate that was approved by council at $667,600. Overall, we're in our preliminary estimates of revenues, we're showing $14.491 million, a 1.9% or $1,909,000 increase over the budgeted 2023. And also, I forgot to state up in the section under Fund 350, that's the TBD, the Transportation Benefit Fund, estimated in at 350. So that wasn't in last year's amount. So if you back that out of the 1.9, you're down to just under $1.6 million increase over the 2023 budget. Currently, that's what we've estimated in the budget, and I'm open for any questions.
All right, let's go through council members for any questions or comments. Councilmember Cleveland.
I had a question about the increases in sales tax that we're anticipating. You said it was due to increases to new businesses. How is that calculated? 435,000 or estimated.
Well, it's just a percentage increase over the prior year amount.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe because some of the you mentioned the Burger King and the Chipotle, and there's a few restaurants over there, they might cannibalize sales from the others. So I was wondering if, how conservative we were being, or if we're using some sort of standard increase or whatnot. But yeah, just curious.
Yeah, and we also have a full year of Salvation Army that will go in there, and
Goodwill.
Goodwill, sorry.
Mr. Rizzatello, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, and I'll also say that within essentially the state of Washington, the sales tax website, we can also look at specifically trends in some of the businesses. Now, we sign documents where we can publicly go to the micro level on it, but we can nonetheless essentially extrapolate that data. So I mean, looking at such, I do feel it is a conservative number because yeah, we are having additional like fast food places and Goodwill and things like that, but and you can see this by our traffic counts when we are collecting the traffic counts. Year to year, we're having substantive increases. And then you're seeing that ripple effect into the businesses in those business districts. So I don't really think you're going to see a net like decrease at all because the traffic counts, which is a good indicator, coupled with what you see in the state of Washington database, isn't indicating that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Espinosa.
Yeah, just a comment. So as we look at the news of our economy and look at the interest rates and unemployment is still pretty low, but interest rates are rising and they're expecting to hike a couple more times before the end of the year. Do we have a contingency plan in case things don't pan out according to the projections for next year?
Well, it all develops into where we were at on our fund balance. So it'll come into play more when we look at what the expected expenditures are for next year and the capital investments and where we are at on our fund balances. We may have to lighten some of those, and sales tax may be a good example, but as Mike said, you know, it's consistent with the state, what they're anticipating in sales tax increases.
Brian, don't we have a reserve fund as well?
Yeah, well, that's an emergency, and currently there's about $500,000 in there. And that's predicated on council approval if we're going to use any of those funds to supplement. But, you know, really until we see the expenditure side and look at where we're at on ending fund balance, it's kind of early to make drastic changes unless we see there's, you know, a significant flaw in the assumptions.
Thank you.
Councilmember Peterson.
That's a good point. This is so preliminary right here. It's just, you know, we're not even, we don't have 2023 actual yet. We have a budget call in there. So everything here is so up in the air that the 900,000 is interesting. By the time you're done, it could be some other number, and it will be some other number. Yeah. So one quick question I had, you know, it's been interesting. We talk about some of these businesses we've added. What was the timing? I think we've all recognized the additional business to Walmart with the closure of Kmart and a few of the large box stores. Mike, do you remember what year that had an impact on what year when I stare down at these columns? You think? Putting you on the spot, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, it happened over a number of years. So pretty much with the closure of the Shopko, the Macy's, and the Kmart, it basically has been going from about 2019 through about 2021. And when you aggregate all of that together, because I was interested myself in that, that correlated to about a 10% jump, essentially. And that's because those other category killers essentially vanished. So I think that there's a direct correlation there.
Yeah. You know, just looking at the parking lot, and it's interesting. Our auto dealer we have here, I was down there the other day, and there's no cars on the lot. You know, and I said, boy, business is rough. And he said, no, it's never been better. You know, 10 cars are coming in, they're all sold. Yeah. There's 20 cars coming in, they're all sold. They're not even going to hit the lot. And talk about looking at pandemic time periods and whatnot, and what we're back to now. And those are some significant sales tax issues there. So anyway, yeah. So, we're looking at the future, not really knowing, but a lot of positive events.
I mean, there's enough of a trend line where we can get an indicator. And then I just wanted to jump back to one of the original questions about what are ways we can control things if the revenues don't essentially equal our projections. Keep in mind, in the 6-year plans that you all approve every year, there is a column in there that says high, medium, and low. And that came into play when we were in the middle of 2020, because if we're off on those projections, then basically the low ones aren't going to get done, and then the medium ones, they'll be a next priority, and then if stuff's really tight, those will be delayed. Because in 2020, I would say us taking that very cautious approach, I mean, that led to what I would say we're one of the only cities I'm aware of that didn't have to be laying off people or doing dramatic service reductions, and it was because of that. So that is a lever. And what I will say, and it's weird that the state RCWs tie things where we have to do this revenue thing now, but that's what it says in non-charter code cities. It says you have to do it by October 1st, so that's why we're doing it tonight. But really, you're going to see the other levers at the workshop next week, because that's when we unveil the draft of the 6-year plans, which for capital equipment and information technology feed into a lot of this.
Councilmember Williams.
I have 2 questions. One's kind of a follow-up on what we've been talking about, and that is on the sales tax and the B&O tax. I noticed that, especially on sales tax, we had quite a bit of, our 2023 budget is quite a bit of jump on our 2022 actual, and then we're proposing another jump. Do we have year-to-date on 2023 to give us an idea of
what I'll do before the next presentation is I'll go through the actual year-to-date and extrapolate that to the end of the year, so we have a forecast for 2022.
That would be helpful. Thank you. I'm like, I don't know where to look when you're talking. I'm like, God, where are you? My next question was the property sales that we're expecting to go up next year and the developments that are proposed to come on. I don't have a good feel for what that amount of REIT money means in terms of, does that mean like 50 houses sell or 250, or, what kind of assumptions are going into that number?
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was saying, Brian, if you could extrapolate. then after that, I'll add something.
Well, since there's such a demand for housing in the area, we anticipated that, some of the projects that are moving forward, those are going to come to fruition. Some of them, mid part of next year, and we're just anticipating a slight increase in the amount. You can see that in 2022, we actually had $505,000. And again, all these lines, I'll do a, before the next presentation, I'll do a forecast for this year. So we'll get a better handle of where we're at year to date and what our expectations are by the end of the year. But we felt since 2022 at $505,000 that the $500,000 represented a reasonable estimate for 2024. Our estimate of the amount isn't in like detailed calculations and spreadsheets and analysis. We have our assumptions and just generally extrapolate where we're at in prior years.
So
So I don't
500
have a number of, say, we've anticipated another 100 homes sale at this dollar amount, and anticipate what the excise tax will be on those sales.
Well, so what it sounds like is we could hit the 500,000 without a significant change in inventory. Which I'm hoping soon we will start to get some more inventory here because we are so short. But, okay, thank you.
Mike or John, do you guys have like a best guess of how many units might come on the market or be ready for sale next year? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Our closest development that's turnkey, so to speak, would be the 70 lots in the villages of Garrison Creek. That's 14 acres, 2 phases. They're telling us that they're going to put the infrastructure in this year, like the water and sewer and that type stuff. So, maybe we might see 15 to 20 units from that neighborhood next year. That's what we're hoping for. The Lakeside development, we're in discussions with them about possibly a pre-application meeting coming up. I don't know if we might see some units from that late in 2024. They have a lot of planning to get through and design work to do. So we're hopeful on that. So, and then there's once the annexation is completed of the Martin Airport property, we likely will see some of that come in as residential, but that could be late 2024, 2025.
Where's the Lakeside?
That's the McKiernan and Christensen property south of Majonier.
And another thing I would add too is from a multifamily perspective as well. It looks like what was formerly known as Villages of Fort Walla Walla, which is now known as Latitude. Yeah, it looks like that is getting finally to a precipice of going. And then there's also an apartment complex that the Hambies are going to be dealing with on Southwest 6. So when you aggregate everything, there's actually a lot of scattered site things going on beyond the big ones we've been talking about over the number of years.
Councilmember Sherman.
I don't have any questions. I'm with Lauren. This is a good idea of where we're headed for 2024, but feels too early to ask more than that.
Councilmember Boyle.
I agree. Once we have some of those projected final actual numbers for 23, the numbers will mean more, but I mean, this looks really good.
All right. Any additional questions or comments? All right. John, I just want to say what's freaking me out because your microphone is red, but we could hear you on the speakers. Oh my goodness. All right, so you're hiding the.
Turn it off. I had it on.
Well, I was just, it's like I could hear him in the speakers and his microphone's on red. I didn't see the second one.
Oh.
Yeah.
And just so I can comment, we'll take this feedback and we'll do some additional analysis, and we'll have that 2023 forecast number prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, there's no public hearing, so we're going to move on to our action items. There's one action item on the agenda tonight, and Mr. Rickard's going to present on the Hodgins, sorry, he said annexation.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, we have another annexation application before you. This is the first meeting where the council will be asked to accept it or reject it or modify, require the simultaneous adoption of zoning regulations, whether the city will require the assumption of all or any portions of the city indebtedness existing in the area to be annexed, and then set a public hearing date. The property, there's 6 properties involved. if you could pull up the map, that'd be helpful. Sherry, thank you. There's 6 properties at South College Avenue, at the very tail end, south of the Christensen property and the formerly, the Christensen property and the McKiernan property. Christensen is now the Lakeside. Get that straight. So the yellow area is the Lakeside property. The red is the McKiernan property. The 4 properties closest to the McKiernan property will come in as commercial under the zoning, the way our land use is set up. They're residential development buildings. They would remain as residential until the use changes. So not a problem there with the way our zoning is set up. It allows for that. And then the 2 larger pieces off of Ofty Lane, those will come in as residential. That's how it's set up in our land use. We may see at some point in the future a request for either one or both of those to be rezoned to commercial. It just depends on what the property owners want to do. That would require a comprehensive plan amendment and zoning change for those, but they will come in at this point in time the way our comprehensive plan has them as residential. Total annexation area is just under 29 acres. We're calling it the Hodgins annexation area just because they were the primary drivers on it. But there you can see we have all of the property owners involved in the annexation have signed on to it and want to be a part of the city. We did do on a number of the properties, we were requested to do a comparison of what the assessed valuation would be when they annexed into the city, and the assessor's office provided that comparison for us. And as we suspected, the property taxes are actually less when you come into the city because you don't have the county road tax. And even though we have some other debt, still the same school district, so they're already paying on that debt. So that's just kind of interesting. If you ever run into anybody and they're talking about annexation and stuff, usually the case is that they will pay less when they come into the city. It's the 60% annexation method that's being used. I guess the only thing I'd like to point out is that we're proposing to set the hearing date for October 24th, 2023. Any questions?
All right, council members, Councilmember Cleveland, questions or comments?
Looks good. No questions.
Councilmember Espinosa,
No questions.
Councilmember Peterson,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams,
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Sherman,
No questions.
Councilmember Boyle.
No questions.
All right. So if there's no questions or comments and no additional discussion, do we have a motion?
As Councilmember Williams, I will move to 1, accept boundaries of the annexation as proposed. 2, require the simultaneous adoption of zoning regulations, parcels 350602140056, 350602140057, 350602140058, 350602140059 shall be zoned general commercial. Parcels 350602410060, 350602410061, and 5602420040 shall be zoned single-family residential. 3, require the assumption of all or any portion of existing city indebtedness by the area to be annexed. And 4, set a public hearing date of October 24, 2023. And I request that the city clerk record that I read all those numbers correctly.
I was going to ask, did you read that before volunteering?
The last series was believe you said 5.6.
Yeah, you missed a zero in the last one.
Oh, I would request to change it to 5060240040.
You missed a two.
I request that it be the ones that are listed on our agenda.
I think we're missing actually 3 in front of that.
Yeah, the beginning of the parcel number.
3506.
Oh,
Okay, so with a correction of 3506.
The beginning.
no. I accept the amendment to the motion.
I will second.
Be correct and to have the additional number put into the parcel number.
All right, and Councilmember Cleveland seconded that. Thank
Yes, I
you. Any additional discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, John. I'm so used to Mike always doing it. No, so thank you. Thank you for that. All right, there's no administrative reports on the agenda tonight. There's one informational report on this agenda for your review. So if you have not had a chance to do that, please do. And we do not have an executive session tonight. So we're down to closing items. Is there any other business for good of the order? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to conclude?
I'll make a motion to conclude the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. So we have a first and a second. So if there's no objection, the meeting is concluded at 7:43 PM.